is qualified to run as an independent in the 6th Congressional Districts, Mr. Alexander Hernandez. Mr. Hernandez, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Pritchard, for having me on.
Oh, I'm glad to have you. You've heard multiple times here, we've offered every candidate an opportunity to come on and interview. You have qualified and you put down that you're running as an independent. Could you share a little bit of why you're running as an independent in this 6th congressional race?
Yes. And I'm proud to be the one and only truly independent candidate out of 18 candidates. I decided to do that because I'm going to put folks in the district before any money, special, or partied interests. Frankly, it's no secret. Washington's broken. It's been broken for a long time. And that's because both parties tend to put the needs and interests of money folk over the needs of the people. And I'm going to change that. As an independent with 18 candidates, I'm standing out of the field. And really, our People First message is resonating with folks across the political spectrum, across the district, and we're really happy about that. I'm overwhelmed with the amount of reception we're getting from folks, every stripe of color and of the political spectrum, and they're on board because we're putting people first. And I'm telling folks, I'm going to put the district first. Whatever the people of the district want, that's my party, not any other of the major parties, because they've shown they don't reflect the will of the people. They reflect the will of their donors.
So can I put that in a box with you as far as the only true independent candidate, as you said about yourself? But can I put that in a box that you say the other parties don't reflect the will, and that'd be the Republicans and the Democrats, the will of the people? They reflect their donors. Can I say that's what you said? Is that?
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I said. And I mean, it's reflective in legislation. Just follow the money. You follow, Open Secrets has every single member of Congress's contributors. You see who contributes to who, and you see what type of legislation they push to further get along. And it reflects, it goes hand in hand. It's no big secret. And that's the thing that we're doing. And folks know it. Folks in the 5th District know it. And that's why we're appealing to a lot of folks here.
So can you resonate and get past the name recognition? Because every race, Mr. Hernandez, has the name recognition candidates, and if you watch the media this weekend, you would think there's only, out of 18 candidates, 3 candidates, Mr. Ossoff and 2 others on the Republican side. I won't get into the names, but are you able to get your message out as the true independent? And why the follow the money? What? Elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, I mean, yes, we're doing it. We talk to voters every single day. We're out canvassing. I got a handful of volunteers, and we're growing. I was able to finally hire my first staff on last week, and we're growing slowly but surely. And as people hear it, they're telling their neighbors, and they're letting folks know, yes, there's an independent. Once people find out that there's a race, they do their own research. Every candidate, there's 18 candidates out here. They're all going out canvassing, right? People are finding out about this race. Most people are saying, okay, actually, we're personally getting close to a 50% voter commitment from our canvassing contacts, but we're using it to our advantage. Folks are hearing about the race, and when they hear about it, they'll go do their research, and they'll find out about us. If they go to the state of Secretary of State's website to find out, we're the first name that pops up. And we're, like I said, the only independent candidate. And right now, with the current political climate, that's really resonating, folks. Folks are frankly sick and tired of both parties. And back to the money part, I mean, we need to get money out of politics. That's been the detrimental thing to our system of governing. It has stalled. It has not been responsive to people. And, that's where we're at. Frankly, a lot of folks stand to lose a lot of money if that changes. And that's what I'm up against. And we feel good because we're on the side of the people.
Okay, let's talk about some of the issues that are facing this Congress at this time. And this is a special election to replace new HHS Secretary Tom Price from the 6th District. So let's go into repeal and replace this week. And what say you on, there's 2 sides of this coin that I've been following here recently. With HHS Secretary Tom Price and what we hear they may be putting up the Republicans, it is being labeled in some ways as Obama light, has tax credits, subsidies. So we're hearing that Obama light. And then on the other side, I'll just use Senator Rand Paul and several of his interviews calling it Obama light and not supporting it. Where are you on the health care and repeal and replace?
Well, and I think they're absolutely right. It is Obama 2.0. That's what it is. It's Obamacare 2.0 because, in essence, what it does, it's a big handout to the insurance industry. And that's the big problem with the legislation, both of them, Obamacare and Tom Price's plan. They in essence just say, everyone now go buy insurance, and we've all become part of this market where everyone has to go pay the insurance industry for coverage. And frankly, the insurance industry right now is jumping through verbal loops trying to figure out how to package some new products to sell to consumers, and that's the wrong approach. They're trying to take an approach that's simply a Band-Aid solution to a looming insurance bubble. The insurance bubble will pop at one point, and when it does, it's going to make the housing crisis look minuscule by comparison. As an independent, I can talk about this. Partisans cannot, because they are entrenched to both the insurance industries and folks that have a lot of money to lose. I don't, and that's why I'm talking about it, and people are resonating to that message and saying, you know what, enough's enough of this kicking the can down the road. Let's really face our issues head on.
What about the economy as far as, let's go with, if you're there, you may possibly be voting on several things where illegal immigration is concerned. So what's your stand on immigration? What's your stand on building a wall on the southern border of this country? And what is your stand on what we may be seeing as we speak, President Donald Trump coming out with another extreme vetting process for people coming in this country from some other countries?
Okay, again, with this particular issue, again, we're seeing continuation of Obama's policies. We're seeing kicking the can down the road. We're seeing both parties not take a stand on the real problem. For example, the wall you brought up. The wall is going to be very expensive and ultimately not very efficient. Most of the quote-unquote illegal immigration is coming from folks overstaying their visa, so that's folks flying into the country. And frankly, from south of the border, they're not coming from there anymore. As a matter of fact, they're going back south of the border. So when it comes to those concerns, it's a loud policy. It's loud and it's big, but it doesn't do anything to really solve the problem. What we're dealing with is a lot of folks, for example, the Purdue cousins down here in Georgia, they have these farms, right? And they hire a lot of folks, low-skilled labor, who end up coming, they're incentivized to come here and work. If we don't take care of that issue, then we're not going to solve the problem. It's the employers who are hiring these folks who come here for a better life, who come here to better themselves, in essence, who come here in pursuit of the American dream, which was our ancestors did at one point. And frankly, the folks hiring them are the ones having the system continue on. And if we don't deal with that issue, which hasn't really been talked about in the national debate, then we're not going to get much anywhere. We're with these grandiose sort of I call them reality TV show spectacles. That's not going to work well. That's going to look good on a headline, and it's going to get people fired up. But to solve the issue, we're missing the point. And as an independent, I have the ability to say, both y'all are wrong. I want to work on a solution that's going to help the people. And if we don't do that, we're going to move on. And I'm going to call folks out. And that's what our whole campaign's about. We're going to call folks out for their hypocrisy. We're going to call folks out for their contributors who are all of a sudden now legislation comes up and it benefits contributors. And that sort of thing needs to stop if we want to have a government that reflects the will of the people, that reflects we the people. That's why I'm calling my platform Constitution and Independence. I got 3 points to it: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's the approach we're taking to this whole campaign, is putting the people first. And frankly, that's how we're going to win. People are resonating to it. I'm getting folks, I'm getting the most ardent Trump supporters behind us because they like what I'm hearing. I'm getting folks who are progressives who like what I'm hearing. And that's because I'm avoiding these wedge issues that ultimately don't get any work done. And I'm the only working class candidate out of 18. And I want to take that working class Christian background to Washington to get work done for the people.
Okay, now you said these are headline solutions, things like that. So build the wall and some of these things. Can you drill down a little closer on what your solutions of immigration would look like with the executive action, the DREAM Act, the people that are here, the 12 million that are here? Could you drill down what your solutions would be to immigration at this time? Does any of it parallel with what President Trump is putting forth or talking about, or do you have a whole different direction?
Well, I tell you, one of the things I've been doing a lot is I look to history as a guide. I look to history for lessons of things that worked that we should take and try again or make better, and things that didn't work and avoid them at all costs. Ronald Reagan, back in 1986, last time a comprehensive immigration reform passed. There's a model right there. That is, I think, go from there. Because that's the last time it happened, and I'm telling folks, yeah, because you hear folks from both sides. one political party is claiming to be the ones that represent, quote unquote, the interests of immigrants in a way, and they're standing up. But yet they don't tell you the last time immigration happened was under a Republican president. And that's sort of the things we're pointing out. We're going to pick out good ideas regardless of party and run with them. So that would be a basis for us to start and build off of that to make something that is comprehensive and really tackles the problems and doesn't avoid them and doesn't make these grandiose claims of we're going to build a wall. Sure, it'll look great. It'll put a few people to work for a couple years, but then after that, it's just going to be very expensive to maintain. It was very expensive to build and really didn't solve the problem. So that's the approach we're taking. So if anything, I would look to the 86 model to start and then go from there.
Well, the 86 model, and not to argue your answer on that, but the 86 model to me did not work. I have a lot of respect for President Ronald Reagan, and because there was actually several functioning parts of that 86 model, but there was really two basic parts to it. One was the amnesty, and the second was securing the southern border. And obviously, since 1986, we have not secured the southern border or corrected any of the other immigration. So I'm a little confused on how we would use that as a model. And I think most Republicans are saying, hey, we have to secure our borders, plural, all the way in, even people that fly in, is my opinion, before we do anything else. So I understand where you're coming from, but I just don't know that we don't have to secure the borders. I didn't hear you say we did not. I did not hear that from you.
That we did not need to secure. Well, I mean, security is important. I'm not going to say that. That's kind of a little ridiculous, and that's the essence of what the purpose of government is protecting.
Yeah, I didn't hear you say not secure the border. I don't want to mislead. I don't want to mislead the viewers. Yeah, I didn't hear you say not to do it. Yeah, no. You didn't say not to secure it. I understand that. Let's move to something else. And
can I just make one brief point?
Yes,
real quick on
go
that
ahead.
Too? I think with regard to the south portion of the border, we're dealing a lot with the drug crisis, right? The cartels and things of that nature.
Yes.
I think we need to really take a good look at those policies and see what has worked and what hasn't. For example, just last year when Colorado legalized marijuana there, they were able to bring in over $1 billion of revenue that's going to schools. We could do that nationally. We could bring in a lot of money, and that's money that's not going to go to the bad guys. So things of that nature, we got to start thinking outside of the box. We've been stuck in such a small political box that really doesn't have ideas that help the mass majority of people, and that's sort of the approach we're taking. And that's another little point I wanted to add regarding the border and the issue, especially with the south of the border.
Bad guys are getting money for marijuana. So I want to be clear now. On the other thing, I cleared up to make sure our viewers did not hear me say that you implied we don't defend our borders. But now I want to clear this up. Did you just advocate legalizing marijuana nationally?
I'm not.
I don't know. Now, wait a minute. Well, I mean, you said you used.
Those issues. Yeah. Okay, then I'll go one step further and say I think it should be completely decriminalized nationally because, frankly, there's too many families that have been broken up over what turns out to be a plant that is less harmful than prescription drugs that are killing people across the country that are perfectly legal. So, yes, I think it should be decriminalized and at least at the very minimum be as accessible as a Xanax would be in this country or oxycodone.
I will side with you on our list of what is acceptable and not acceptable. So it lacks a lot. Our list that we have made in this country. Those are my words. So we have a major heroin problem in this country.
Oh,
let's move.
Tell me about it. I know that.
Let's move to the economy. All right. Let's move to the.
All right.
I mean, let's move to the debt. Let's move to the debt. All the noise that we're hearing this morning on the news, I've been yelling about it for an hour and a half and all the media all weekend long. The one noisy thing you do not hear is we're just about a week and a half away from the debt ceiling. And the debt ceiling, that can was kicked down the road to, I think it's March 15th, but we have the debt ceiling coming up. We have a $20 trillion deficit. Now, unfunded liabilities, it's much higher, but we'll stick with the $20 trillion and the debt ceiling coming up. What say you concerning the debt ceiling coming up? Where do you stand on that?
Well, on that, I think it's an important issue because, frankly, Congress, few responsibilities they have, and one of them, the most important, is checking the purse. Frankly, we've had a Congress for too long that doesn't do that. Recently, just last year, there was reports that the Pentagon has misplaced $6.5 trillion. I think that for $22 trillion debt, that's a good start. We go find that $6.5 trillion. We hold the folks who lost that money accountable. And then we start diverting those funds into things that matter, whether it's the debt or paying a raise for our veterans, which is my platform called for finding those $6.5 trillion and start diverting some funds to our men and women in service as a raise. And that's the way we start doing that. We start dealing with the debt by having Congress that checks the purse and finds all the waste and starts bringing down that waste. And that is the baseline. We start there and then just go from there. Frankly, I think in terms of debt, I think it's a little more on the. I'm more on what Alexander Hamilton sort of said along those lines, where debt is in essence a good thing in a way. But we have to maintain it. That's why we have to have the Congress that actually does its job and checks the purse. And that's something I want to do. You know, take my working class Christian background to Washington and work for the people. Unfortunately, there's no workers in Washington, so work doesn't get done. I want to change that.
What about now? If elected, there's a lot going on, and in the 6th Congressional District, the election day is on the 18th of April. April 18th is election day, and then if a runoff, I think is it June, around June. Anyhow, Steve Mnuchin said, the Treasury Secretary said that they were looking to have the tax cuts that they were introducing to Congress in place by August. So in the 6th District, that's something you could actually be involved in on that legislation from the President Trump. How do you feel about his tax plan that you see thus far and some of the tax cuts he wants to do? Can you support those, the president's tax package?
I don't think I could support anything Steve Mnuchin presents. Not directly the president. No, I'm not saying what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Steve Mnuchin. Steve Mnuchin is a crook. Steve Mnuchin put folks out of their homes for a few dollars. Steve Mnuchin is a reason the housing crisis happened. People like Steve Mnuchin decided to make up. Literally, they made up products and these toxic acids that they sold to each other, knowing full well they were trash. That's not what we need. That's cronyism. We don't need any more cronyism, and that's what I want to fight, and I'm going to call it out. I'm going to work with people who want to legitimately work for the people. I'm going to stop cronyism as soon as I see it, and Steve Mnuchin is the worst type of the swamp that needs draining.
So, well, you were very clear on that.
Yeah. Steve Mnuchin is not a good guy by any means, and that's something I'm telling folks. It's like, I'm going to work with the president on issues where we have common ground, where we're going to work for the people. And he said it. He said he wants to save Social Security. He says he's wanting to save Medicare. He says that none of that's going away. So I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen and those sort of things. He says he wants to create jobs through infrastructure, and I have a plan for that. We just follow what Dwight D. Eisenhower did and put a lot of folks to work and get our economy churning again. So yeah, I mean, but with Steve Mnuchin, that's just one of the guys who frankly is a disservice for our country, and his plans are just why we've been in such a bad place for a long time. Okay.
Any other cabinet members on the Donald Trump's cabinet that you would like to make a comment on while we're talking about the cabinet?
Well, I mean, while we're on that, I mean, the 6th District, there's Tom Price, and there's one particular note in his plan. He wants to, in essence, also take Medicare and make it a voucher system. What, in essence, that plan is doing is they're taking our money that we've paid into it, the people have paid into Medicare, and they want to give it to Wall Street and create a voucher system. And that, again, that's in essence the problems that we've been doing. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different solution. Wall Street does not care about the people's money. We can't give them our Medicare money and expect them to take care of it. You saw what they did with 401ks, and I just explained what Mnuchin and their folks did with the housing crisis. So that's in essence the things I'm worried of and the things I'm going to call out.
So you on this this week's repeal and replace, you support more of what you hear from Senator Rand Paul, and is that what you support more of?
Yeah, well, everything I've heard him say this past week, I support that it should be out in public. I think it's absurd that we have a sitting senator running around Capitol Hill trying to find this legislation. That's absurd. I mean, the optics of it are so bizarre and so beyond belief that I can't believe it. And that's a big reason why we need workers in Washington to really get things done. Right now, the cronyism is rampant. The swamp needs draining, and that's what I'm in this for. As an independent, to only put the folks in the district first, not anyone else, not any of this cronyism, which has hurt us for too long.
What about what you hear, the 11 million people that would be affected? What would you do there with the 11 million people that will be affected if Obamacare is repealed? What about the Medicaid expansion with a lot of these states? What do you do about that?
Yeah. You know, I'm glad you brought up Medicaid expansion because that's really relevant to this particular race. There's several folks in this race who are career politician types and who played politics over country and their constituents. We saw Medicaid not be expanded in Georgia, and that, in essence, a party left $34 billion on the table. This was money that was already approved. This was money that was there. $34 billion. They said no because of politics, and people in Georgia hurt. Hospitals have closed in Georgia and are closing because they didn't take that money. And that is absurd and that's ridiculous. And now some of these folks want a promotion. That's not the type of politics I'm going to do. I'm going to do a people-first politics at every step of the way. Every legislative piece that comes through, if it doesn't take into account the people, first and foremost, the people of the 6th District, then the people of the United States of America, if it doesn't take them into account, then no thank you, and we're going to make sure to call it out.
Two last things, Mr. Hernandez, and again, we're glad you joined us this morning. Two last things before we leave. Number one, as an independent, have you thought about who you would caucus with if elected in Washington, D.C.? Have you thought about that?
I've been asked that question before, and I'm glad you bring it up. I'm pledging not to serve, if given the privilege to serve and represent the district, not to serve longer than 3 terms. And with that, I'm taking it into account that I'm going to avoid caucusing with anyone because I think that's part of the big problem with the swamp. The whole purpose of caucusing in this is to get your ranking up so folks can be the chairman of such and such committee. I'm not there to try to be the chairman of this committee. I'm there to try to work for the people and make sure that we get things done on the table that really reflect and help the people out. If it involves the whole purpose politically to caucus is to get your chairmanship up somewhere. I'm not too concerned about that, so I'm going to avoid caucusing and only represent people of the district and not a party.
Well, I don't disrespect that, but at the same time, and some will argue the system is broken, so we can say
it is broken.
Okay, but by saying as an independent that you would not caucus with any particular group, do you feel you could be effective in for the people of the 6th District? Because what we're talking about for 30 minutes, I talk about with every candidate. At the end of it is you're the representative. And I think we've lost touch with that in America, that these are the representatives of those districts, first and foremost, the people that are the voters in your district. So do you think think you could be effective for those voters in the 6th District?
I think I can, and I'll tell you how. If elected and given the privilege to serve, I'm going to be able to use that as a platform. This will be a platform for the people of the 6th District. I will use it as effectively as possible. I will be at media outlets, making sure the message gets out, the message that concerns folks in the 6th District. I will be in the 6th District accessible. I'm going to go to the grocery stores and talk to the folks in the district. I'm going to go work. I'm going to go to the parks. I'm accessible to the people, and that's my big thing. I'm going to be, if given a privilege, I'm going to be here, responsive to the people of the district, and I'm going to make sure that I use the for lack of a better term, the pulpit of the congressional seat to its most effective means possible to make sure the message gets out that really reflects what the will of the 6th District is and the will of the people.
I'm sorry, Mr. Something technical there. Mr. Hernandez, the last thing is I'd like to give you an opportunity to close. We have gone all the way around this, although you may have already answered this question in several other segments here. I always end with this candidate, be specific on what you would like to accomplish for the 6th district and drill it down to the 6th district itself, what you see there, the needs for the 6th district, and what the people in that district need the most that you'd like to go represent or accomplish.
Okay, well, it boils down to the economy. It's simply the economy. We get our economy churning by investing in the people first. We invest in infrastructure and education for growth. Dwight D. Eisenhower did this in the 50s. That's why I keep stressing to people. This has been done. We need to follow it, and that's how we are able to do it again. I mean, the 6th district is notoriously known for traffic issues. We can really fix that, be efficient, and have roads that really cater to the traffic in the district. There's waterways. I mean, just our neighboring district had high levels of lead this last year in schools. We need to dig those up, put a lot of folks to work rebuilding our poisoned waterway systems, our roads and infrastructure, and this is all economy. This is going to, every business here, the contractors, builders in the 6th district, the small business folk, they're going to start getting more and more work. That's only going to be putting more money in their pocket. They're going to hire more people. It's going to get the economy churning. And I mean, once upon a time, during Eisenhower's time, they were growing at rates of 10%. I don't by any means see that happening anytime soon, but that we should try. I mean, we need to be ambitious, and that's the American dream. That's the American spirit, and that's what I want to take to Washington. And I hope I could count on the support of folks in the 6th district. And also, just wanted to mention my website is yourvotegeorgia.com. You could find out more info there. I have videos, our platform, and you could always reach out to us there. We're on social media. I'm on Twitter and Facebook, and I want to hear from the folks of the district because I want to represent the people. I want to work for the people, not the other way around. We could send a working-class Christian to Washington to really represent folks of the district.
You know, I did say that was the last question, but you made me think of something in the transportation and in the 6th district. The transportation is a big deal. Obviously, this would be on the plate of the 6th district representative. President Trump is wanting to introduce almost $1 trillion in infrastructure spending. Where do you stand on that?
I'm a little worried of his plan in a way because, like I said, it opens itself to cronyism, that particular legislation, and that's what I'm worried about. I think we need something that's more directed, more precise, like, for example, Eisenhower's plan was, where they invested properly. The legislation the president has, I would work to make better. I would work for it to work for the people, but unfortunately, right now, the way as it stands, it really lends itself to cronyism, and a lot of folks just for example, the $6.5 trillion that were lost at the Pentagon, it's a similar sort of approach where you just, here's the money, and then we lose track of it. And with the cronyism element, I'm just weary of it. I want to make sure that we targeted specific projects, and that's where the checking the purse comes in. That's where Congress checking the purse comes in. We need to make sure that dollars allocated go to the proper projects. For example, I know Governor Deal here in the States, they have projects that are shovel ready. And when I say shovel ready, they're already going. They're already digging. And if there's national federal funds available for these types of projects that are already going, that's where they should go first. Prioritize projects already going. And that way we make sure we invest our money properly, not just growing the cronyism that has so harmed our country.
Listen, Mr. Hernandez, we appreciate you so much, and like we tell every candidate, thank you for your willingness to serve, and we wish you well during this campaign. And have a nice day. We'll have this up on YouTube later that you can share with your friends. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Mr. Pritchard. It was a pleasure.
That was Mr. Alexander Hernandez. Now, let me give you a brief before we go to commercial and put this in here. The the 6th Congressional District, we have told you this is the reason we're doing this. This is our interview with candidate. He is an independent candidate, Alexander Hernandez. We have one scheduled every morning this week. Chuck Todd, if you look at MSNBC, he did a segment on the 6th District. They are starting to pick up steam, pour money into this district. Donald Trump only won by 1%. Democrats feel they may be able to come in and make a move. If they could win this district, they could set the tone. They think they could set the tone for 2018. If they win this district, they think they can freeze. They can make concern in the South, the red South, that it's up for grabs, and also put concern in the minds of other congressional districts in the United States that, hey, Trump's not playing well. President Trump's not playing well so far in a lot of these areas. We just showed you the picture of 50 demonstrators over there at Congressman Doug Collins. Now, we want you to know in the 6th Congressional District, we have invited they're already pouring, the DNC is already pouring money into John Ossoff, okay? John Ossoff, we have invited him to interview. He's not responded. Judson Hill, these are the 3 names that the media is given the most exposure to. Judson Hill, former state senator there in Cobb County, has the endorsement of Newt Gingrich and many more. We have not had communication with his campaign, and Karen Handel, former Secretary of State Karen Handel, has sent back a reply, but we're waiting to see what her decision is in an interview there. So there's the 3 top names: Ossoff, Karen Handel, and Judson Hill. We're trying to get them on. We have 4 this week. We have invited all 18. It's a national race. You're going to pay attention to this one. Trust me. This has got the DNC, Obama written all over this race. I'm going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about Obamacare as soon as we finish up here. Lonnie, take us to break.